A lot of people have asked me about how much money an English teacher in Korea can expect to make. Is it enough to live off of? Can you save money? I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes if you're inquiring about teaching English in Korea, you look at the numbers and in your mind you do some simple calculations and hey, it doesn't look like a whole lot. So I thought I would take a look at the average English teacher in Korea and what they can expect to make over the course of one full contract year. So as usual, I don't like to answer questions or talk about topics unless I can speak to them confidently from personal experience. So the first thing I have to do is define what an average teacher is. That could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Now I teach in the public school system through the EPIC program, the English program in Korea, in Busan. Now Busan is the second largest city in Korea. Now the pay scale in Busan ranges from 1.8 million won to 2.5 million won at the high end. Now this is different from other regions of the country. So if you go to an area outside of Busan, the high end of that is a little bit greater than it is in Busan. I think it's 2.7 million. And the reason for that is you're kind of getting away from the larger cities and they're giving you a little something extra to compensate for that. If you go to Seoul, I do believe, I can't say with 100% certainty, but I do believe it's a little bit lower. Ironically, you're going to be in a big city and it's a little bit lower. But the reason for that is because, hey, you're in Seoul, you're in the biggest city of the country, kind of the epicenter for South Korea. Speaking in terms of millions of won and all that, that probably doesn't mean a whole lot to a lot of people out there. So before going any further, let me just say that as of today, 1,000 won is equal to 89 cents or 0.89 US dollars. Throughout this video, when I give numbers, I'll also give US dollars, just as a comparison point to keep you kind of updated and, along the way before we get to the final numbers. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to say that your average teacher is someone with 1 year experience and a TESOL certification that's valid. That would put them at 2.1 million won per month or $1,876 per month. Now, also, just for the sake of this video, it's important to note that if you're from the United States, your first 2 years of teaching English in Korea, you are exempt from paying taxes. So, in this scenario, your average teacher with 1 year teaching in their second year, 1 year of experience, that still puts them underneath that protective blanket of being tax exempt. Now, other countries, you may say, oh, that's unfair. We want to be tax exempt too. Well, when you do get taxed, it's not an enormous amount of money that you're going to be taxed. I think it's somewhere 5 to 7%, so it's not a substantial difference. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so at this point, it's pretty much just simple math. You have 12 months in a year. If you're making 2.1 million won per month, or about 1,800, 1,900 US dollars, you can just do the math. I went ahead and did it, obviously. I'm going to speak mostly in terms of won, so 2.1 million won per month comes out to 25.2 million won per year. Now, in addition to that, if you successfully complete your contract, the EPIC program will also pay you a 1-month bonus. So if you're making 2.1 million per month, you're going to get an additional 2.1 million at the end of your contract if you successfully complete it. That's going to bring you to 27.3 million won per year. Now on top of that, and I'm just going to mention this now, I'm going to save it until the end and you'll see why later. There's also an additional, I guess you could call it a bonus or an allowance depending on whether you stay for another year or if you decide to leave Korea. And I'm going to leave that until the end. If you decide to go, it's called an exit allowance and it's 1.3 million won. If you decide to stay and you re-sign for another year in the same district, in the same province, you actually get another 2 million won bonus. But I'm going to save that to the end just because there are two different scenarios. So the real variable, no matter what you do or how much money you make, is always how much money you spend. So I'm going to draw out your essential expenses that the average English teacher is going to encounter. And I'm going to base them largely on my personal situation, as well as many other teachers, foreign teachers that I know of here. Now, your big expenditures are going to be your utilities, food, transportation, and any hobbies that you might have. Now, utilities basically breaks down to gas, water, electric, and your cable or internet. Now, each teacher pays for them in different ways. Some of them, like myself, pay for them in a bundle. Some of them pay for them separately. Cable is going to come out somewhere around $30, $40 a month. And then the other utilities, especially electric, that's going to vary depending on the time of year. So I'm going to look at it as a bundle just for the sake of this conversation. And I'm going to say that on average, you're going to be spending throughout the course of a year about 100,000 won, or about $90 per month for utilities. Now that'll be less on the spring and fall months because you're not really using your heat or any electric all that much. But during the really cold months or the hot months, you're going to be cranking the heat or you're going to be cranking the AC. So it varies, anywhere between 50 and 60 to like 150, 160. So I'm just going to cut it and somewhere in the middle, and I'm just going to say for this example, 100,000 won. Food. Now this varies slightly for most people, but just for this example, I'm going to say that it's around $500 per month. Now I think that's a little bit high, but you basically spend about $50 per month on school lunches. Most teachers have to pay for their lunches. That's about $50. And then everything else is going to be on whatever it is that you buy in the grocery store for cooking for yourself, or if you go out a lot or whatnot. I think an extra $450 a month is a pretty good amount of money. If you have trouble staying within those boundaries, then you may have some other things that you need to look into. But just for the sake of this, we'll say 500,000 won. Transportation. Transportation means subway, bus, taxi, that type of thing. The majority of your transportation for the average teacher is going to be bus or subway. Now, with the average bus or subway ride being somewhere around $1, I would say that putting aside $50 per month for that is definitely going to be enough. If you start adding into that taxis, like if you go out late on the weekends and stuff like that, it might be a little bit more, but I still think that $50 per month is a reasonable amount, 50,000 won. Many people come here and you're going to look for a hobby because you do have a lot of free time. In my case, I'm involved in martial arts or working out. If you're interested in finding a gym or a martial art or something like that, you're going to be somewhere around $100 a month. Now that's a little bit high in most cases, depending on what you're looking for, but that's just what I put for this case here. So if you wrap all these together, you come out somewhere around 750,000 won, which is about 670 US dollars per month. Now I think that that's a pretty good amount of money to set aside. And there are people that I know that live on much less, and I'm sure that there are people that live on more. But I think that's a fair amount. But for the sake of this example, I'm going to use two numbers. I'm going to use that number there, the 750,000 won, $670, and I'm going to bump it to 1,000. A million won per month, which is about $893. Now that's really getting up there, but that's taken into consideration the fact that everybody, I think, can speak to this and say that somehow money finds a way of making its way out of our pockets and going somewhere at the end of the month every month. So I'm going to use both scenarios. So given those monthly expenses over the course of the year, it's pretty simple math. You're going to be at 9 million won on the low end, 12 million won on the high end, which respectively is converted to $8,040 on the low end for expenses, and 10,720 on the high end. So there, now we have everything. We have how much you're going to be making, and you have two scenarios for what you can expect your expenses to be over the course of the year. So now, simple math. Low end expenses, you have 27.3 million won, which is about 24,389 US dollars converted. minus your expenses, which is 9 million won, you're going to come out to 18.3 million won, which converted to today's rate is $16,348. Now, if you're a spender a little bit more than that, let's take the high end of the expenses. You're going to be at 15.3 million won, or converted to $13,668. Now, going back to the re-signing bonus, I'm not going to look at the exit allowance because that 1.3 million is used for your plane ticket. So that's going to be kind of a wash because that comes out to about $1,100 or $1,200. A plane ticket back home, depending on where you're at, is probably going to be somewhere around $1,000 to $1,200. So that's going to be a wash. So in that case, that's what you're looking at, the numbers that we just did. But if you do decide to stay another year, you will get a $2 million won re-signing bonus if you stay in the same province. So 2 million won comes out to $1,786. Again, just simple math. So at the end of it all, with all your bonuses, with your income, based on a Busan City pay scale, after expenses, you're going to be somewhere between, in your pocket, $15,454 and $18,134 at the end of your contract. Now, given the amount of money that you make, getting back to what I was mentioning, when you look at the numbers and you say, geez, how much money can you make? How much money can you spend? That doesn't look like a whole lot. Well, given what you're being paid and given what you do and everything, you do have a great opportunity to sock aside a little nest egg for yourself. If you're looking to pay off student loans or something like that, you can see why a lot of people come here and they're able to pay off their loans. That's a pretty decent amount of money by any standard, and it also gives you a reason why a lot of people like to stay in Korea. Now, if you're somebody who likes to travel, which I do highly recommend, if you're in this region of the world, you may find yourself flying to Japan, flying to Southeast Asia, maybe going to Beijing and those things like that. Well, you know that trips can cost a pretty good penny depending on how you travel. So those things come out of that number too. And also unforeseen emergencies, or maybe buy new clothes or gifts for yourself, new computer or something like that. All of that comes out of it. But if you get through a year and you don't have to do any of that, I think the average teacher who has a year of experience with a TESOL certification in Busan can save somewhere between, say, $15,000 and $18,000 after bonuses and everything. I think that's pretty good. And I think if you're coming to Korea, you have that to look forward to. Please don't mess it up for those of us that are here, because we really like this situation. So I hope that was helpful to you. For all the people that have asked, if you have any other questions, there's many other scenarios that we could look at, but I think that that's a very good picture of what you can expect when you're here teaching English in Korea. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for the questions and responses. I'll see you next time. Peace.